All right, guys, we are back in my garage for another video, and today we're going to continue doing the drivetrain services on my BMW X7. I've already posted my video where I did the transfer case service, and today we're going to be doing the front differential service. There will be future videos doing my transmission as well as the rear differential, so stay tuned for that. But this one is probably going to be one of the easier ones to do the front differential. It's pretty straightforward. So let's go ahead and get under the car. I'll show you how it's done, and hopefully you guys find this video useful. Now, as always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing you want to do is jack up the car on all four corners so that it is completely level with the ground. The reason is because the driveline components vary. Some of them have a drain plug, some of them don't. So if it does have a drain plug, the idea is you drain it and then fill through the fill hole. Or if it doesn't have a drain plug, you suck out the old fluid from the fill hole, then pump in fresh fluid to replace it. There are no level indicators on any of these driveline components. So if you don't have the car completely level, then you potentially will overfill it or underfill it. You know, basically that hole won't be at the right point, so you won't be able to get the fluid filled correctly. So that's why it's critical to make sure the car is level. If you don't have a lift, like I don't have one, then just make sure your jack stands are extended the same amount on all four corners, and you should be good to go. Now up front, it's pretty easy to jack up. You'll see a center mounting jack point that you can jack up the front and get both front wheels up in the air. In the rear, it's a little bit more tricky. I use the rear differential, and when you jack that up, just make sure your jack isn't touching the actual differential case cover, and you won't have any issues. So jack it up from the base of the differential, and again, that'll jack up the entire rear, and you can get it on jack stands like this. So once you've got enough space under the car, we are ready to get under and do the rest of the service. Now, of course, before you jack up your car, if it does have air suspension, make sure you disable that from inside of the car. The process is super easy. You go into the dash where it has the little indicator for the ride height of the vehicle, and you're going to hold the button either up or down for 7 seconds and then let it go. If you don't release it after 7 seconds, it won't work. It won't automatically turn off after 7 seconds. You have to let go of the button, and you should see the little green line go away, and that way you know that the air suspension is disabled, and that will allow you to jack it up in the air without creating any errors with the ride level system or anything like that. So of course, to start off, we need to remove a bunch of the under trays. The main one is under the engine, but we need to remove the transmission under tray first. It's just a bunch of 8mm screws around the perimeter, so remove all of those and then feed out the tray to get it out of the way. Next, we're going to remove the big metal skid plate. It has 8 bolts, again, around the perimeter of it. If you're going to try to remove it, but it feels like it's getting stuck, keep in mind there are 2 hidden ones that are sunk into the plate underneath some black grommets. I just used a screwdriver or a trim tool to pop the cover off, and then you'll see them kind of recessed in the hole on either side. I left my grommets off last time, so this time I won't forget, but definitely just look for them if this is your first time going through this. Then boom, drop the pan and you have clear access to the front diff. Now we're under the car. This is like the front bumper, so working your way back a little bit. Towards the left, you'll see the actual transfer case. So this is what it looks like. And you can see one of the axles coming out that way, and the other front axle coming out this way. Sorry, I'm really close, so it's hard to show on camera. But yeah, so this is the transfer case sending power to your front wheels. Now right here is your drain plug. So we'll be able to untwist this and drain out all the fluid, thankfully. But the fill plug is all the way up there. And based on BMW's manual, they want you to remove this big trim cover and pull all this stuff off, take off the wheel, so you can come in from the side and then try to access that hole. but we still have the same tool that we used for our transfer case, and that fits up here and into the hole. Sorry, it's hard to show all this in such a tight space, but it fits into the hole perfectly. So if you use this wrench, it will allow you to get up to the fill plug and loosen it and pull the bolt out. And then from over here, there's still room like to stick your hand all the way through, and you can see my fingers right here. So if you want, you can just come from this side and feed the tube all the way in to actually pump fluid in. Or if you have a more flexible hose, you know, like the one with the hook, you can slide it up there and fill up the hose that way. So that's what we're gonna do now. So go ahead and put your drain pan under the differential and use the same tool to remove the drain plug. Again, I will have a link to it in the video description. It works great for all of these drivetrain services. And then I will say, pro tip, I always forget to say this and I rarely do it myself, but it is a good idea to try to remove the fill plug first. If it's jammed on there or potentially you strip it by mistake, it's better to have that happen and get stuck while the system is full instead of draining it first. So yeah, at least go ahead and loosen it to make sure it can break free. And then we'll go ahead and remove the drain plug, let all the old fluid drain out until it basically runs dry. And then we're going to replace that nut. And keep in mind, I will have the part number in the video description so you guys can get some if you need it. This is the same nut that's used on pretty much everything, including the front diff, the rear diff, the transfer case. So just go to FCP Euro, buy a bunch of them, and then you'll be good for life. You can return them for a refund every service that you do in the future. And now it's time to remove the fill plug, and you can see it's definitely a tight fit even with the tool, but the good news is this wrench kind of has the right angle to give you better access to it. It does get a bit tedious, kind of turning the nut bit by bit. So once you're able to reach up there and access it with your fingers, you can use them just to turn the nut by hand and spin it off a little more quickly. Then once you've got it off, go ahead and toss that in the drain pan as well. We're putting in BMW G05 diff fluid based on the BMW manual. Everybody has a preference for these things, and you'll probably hear a bunch of different recommendations on the internet, but I just feel like this is what's recommended. It works, so that's what I'm gonna stick with. I did get it again from FCP Euro, so I'll have the link in the video description. And I used the same fluid extractor that I will also have linked. This works for all of your drivetrain services, so it's just really convenient for me. So go ahead and use that to suck out fluid from one of your bottles by pulling on the handle. And then you're going to come in from the side on the wheel well, line up the extension tube so that it actually goes into the fill hole on the diff, and then pump in the fluid into the diff. Your front diff fluid capacity is 450 milliliters by the book, but one bottle is 500 milliliters, so I just kind of pumped in the full 500. And now it's time to wrap it all up. So as always, it's just kind of the reverse process. We're gonna go ahead and reinstall the fill plug, and I did start it by hand since I had access, but then it was time to torque it down. I will put the torque spec in the video description, and if you're wondering how I torque it down in such a tight space,
I don't. Nobody does. Just tighten it and move on. Just ignore it. You won't have to think about it again. Nobody's gonna know. They make up the numbers anyway. They don't matter.
So yeah, feel free to torque it down if you're more ambitious than I am. Then yeah, just clean up any mess you've made and reinstall the under tray and the skid plate. If you're like me, then you'll do all of these different services at once. So again, feel free to subscribe and stick around because I'll be posting the other services in the future. But if not, I recommend doing this every 60,000 miles or so. There's no actual published maintenance interval from BMW because these are all considered lifetime fluids. But especially on these big heavy cars, they tend to be very hard on the xDrive system. So it's a good idea to do a little preventative maintenance. That'll go a long way to make everything last, especially if you do a lot of hauling and long road trips and towing like I do. So yeah, otherwise I think that was pretty much the easiest of these services. Again, just because it has both a drain plug and the fill plug, it was pretty straightforward. Again, stick around for the other services. I will be posting DIYs for everything on my X7, and hopefully this is helping you guys in case you want to do this service as well. So I think that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I do hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.